It is February the 3rd, and it is the evening time. I should have been making this video early in the morning at about 5:15 or so, because that is when this experience happened, but I just didn't have time. I had to go to work. So now I am sharing this experience with you. It was really weird, like so many of my experiences are, but very unique and very, very interesting, extremely interesting. So, as I said, it was around 5 something in the morning, 5:15, 5:20, I believe, and I was lying down. I had National Public Radio on in the background, just very light, and I was laying down on my side, feeling very warm in my bed. And I tell you, as I share these experiences, I always like to give really quick tips as I go along. Your comfort level when you are trying to have an experience is extremely important. You have to feel comfortable. This is why I always tell people, it's so interesting. I'll see people on subreddit saying, that they have all these thoughts in their mind, and, they're thinking about this, they're thinking about all these different, things like they're breathing, and maybe they're moving too much, they're moving on their side, and are they supposed to be sleeping or lying on their back? Their minds are full of all these different things. And one of the keys to having one of these experiences is just chilling out and relaxing. It's just so simple. Really, you just have to let all those things go and just relax. Really, really that simple. So I'm lying there, and within about 10 to 15 minutes or so, I hit that middle place, the middle spot, the place between being asleep and awake. And as soon as I hit that sweet spot, for whatever reason in my mind, I thought about time travel. Now, for those of you who have listened to some of my oldest videos, some of my older videos, the ones that I started putting out probably within months of doing the Beyond Body, you'll know that I've experienced some version of time travel. I've also gone to realities where I thought it was time travel, but it may have been in that reality, the 21st century, just like it was here. It just developed differently. So I have had experiences in other realities. I've had experience with time travel. Time travel is, like I say, since I was a kid, I've always been fascinated with it. But for whatever reason, I wasn't, in the beginning, when I closed my eyes this morning, I wasn't thinking about time travel, to be completely honest. I was just relaxing. And then when I hit that middle place, I was like, I wonder, how is it that anyone could travel back through time? I wonder how that is. And once I asked that question, it was just dark. Now, there was no movement. For those of you who have listened to my Beyond Body experiences before, there'll be times when I have movement. I'll go left, I'll go right, I'll feel my legs go up and down, that kind of thing. I'll feel like I'm on a roller coaster at times. I didn't feel this at all. With this particular experience, when I went into that middle place and I asked about time travel, it was like there was this moment of darkness, and then suddenly I opened my eyes. But when I opened my eyes, I was no longer in the 3D world. Oh my gosh, this place was absolutely astonishing. I was standing on this path or street, and on either side, there were structures. But this is what I have to tell you about those structures that I saw. The structures were made out of, I saw letters, numbers, and symbols. That's the only way I can kind of break it down to you to make it as, to simplify it as much as I can. I think I saw the letter U, I saw O, I saw numbers, and I saw symbols, but all of these things were structures. They were either fused with structures or they were the structures themselves. It was as if, I don't know how many people, so interesting. I was telling my mom this and she made the comparison to the Matrix. You know, I think that is accurate when Neo finally realizes who he is, and then suddenly he can see the way the environment truly is inside of the computer program. But I can't say that it was exactly like that. I wasn't seeing all these, green glowing numbers and symbols and things like that. I was seeing these structures as if they were stationary buildings, but they were also letters, numbers, and symbols. I don't know if you can picture that. I hope you can. I'm doing my best to tell you or to share it with you. It was just astonishing. And I'm looking at these things. Some of the things I see are recognizable, like the letters and numbers. The other things I see symbols, and I have no idea what these symbols mean. There are symbols I'm just like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what this means. And this architecture, and I'm going to call it architecture, was on either side of me as I walked. And at one point, as I was walking, I remember when I first arrived, I was like, oh my, I just thought this place looked so cool. I was like, oh my gosh, this place looks so cool. And at one point when I was walking, these two kids come up to me. They couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 years old. One had light brownish hair. The other one had darkish hair, really dark hair. And I then, as I've done in some of my more recent experiences, I've begun to introduce myself and say, hey, to tell them my name, and then I tell them I'm from Earth. And as I was doing this to this kid with light brown hair, he said, oh, and then he called me Mr., and then he said he referred to me by my last name, as if I was like, I don't know, like a customer or something. It was really weird. But this person, I'm going to tell you, this person knew me. I mean, he knew my name. He was very polite, extremely polite. I thought it was very interesting. The other kid, I saw him, and half of him, this is going to sound really strange, guys. Half of him was invisible. The top half of him was invisible for a moment, and then it reappeared. I'm just telling you how I saw it. I was like, what? It was really weird. And when he reappeared, he looked different. He almost looked a bit alien in a way. It was very, very strange. I wasn't freaked out by it at all. I just thought, oh, very, very interesting. So these two kids, they told me their names, and for the life of me, I think one of the names I could not tell you. I couldn't pronounce what the name was. The other one, I thought I was going to remember it, but I could not. It was maybe something like Oog, and it was some kind of weird like Oog, Poog, or something like that. I don't know. I have no idea what the names were. I wish I could remember them for you. But then I figured, okay, as I was standing there with these kids that were very polite and they knew me. And by the way, the other thing I wanted to tell you is that this place felt familiar to me. I felt like I'd been in this place before, and probably the expanded part of me knows this place. Me as the human being I am, in the 3D world, I have no idea what this place was, but internally, I could feel a connection with it. So I, looked at the kid and I said, look, how is it that I could travel back through time? Again, the question that brought me to this place. Now, this is going to sound even stranger than what I just said about the kid who part of him disappeared and then reappeared. He held out his hand, and the tiniest gun I have ever seen in my life appeared in his hand. Like a gun, but it was so small, it was like a trinket. It was tiny. And then this kid proceeded to point it at me. Now, I'm just going, what is this kid doing? So I took my hand, I reached up, and I pushed the kid's hand to the side. I said, what are you doing? You're pointing a gun at me. Even though it was small, I still thought to myself, that must be a gun. He pulls the trigger, and the only thing that I can see that comes out is smoke. That's it. Wasn't a bullet. There wasn't a gunshot. As I discussed this with my mom, what we both kind of, suspected was that the whole gun thing, just like so many other things, was a translation that my mind was making. Somehow, some way, my mind thought whatever this object is that this person is holding, the closest thing that my mind could come up with was a gun. Who knows why that was? Maybe I would have thought that the object was dangerous, and so that's why my mind thought that. But in the end, it wasn't dangerous at all. It was very, very interesting. But the other thought that we had, and I'd be interested to know if you have any thoughts on this. The other thought that we had was that, this was sort of the, behind the curtain kind of thing. Perhaps I was seeing what time is truly made of. And what I was seeing, I simply wasn't necessarily understanding it. And it's so interesting. I see on the subreddit, all these people want to know the answers to all these questions. They always talk about, wanting to know the purpose of the universe and all of these different things that they want to know, and it's interesting because, I don't think that they consider the fact that they could ask the question, receive the answer, but might not understand what it is that they're receiving. This is an important point, especially for those of you who are doing astral projection and these other things to have discoveries, to ask questions, to ask profound questions. What I suggest to you is to be ready to receive an answer that you might not understand. Anyway, after this, I returned and I was back in the 3D world. So that was my experience, a very interesting one. Thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. And until next time, take care.